Filipino tennis star Alex Eala is expected to compete first in the Strasbourg Open in France this weekend. The 20-year-old Filipino tennis sensation enters the tournament fresh off an impressive round of 32 finish at the Italian Open, where she pushed world number 2 Elena Rybakina.
Just look at these crowds on a spectacular summer's night here in Melbourne. The last time we saw the record broken for the first Tuesday set at about 58,000 back in 2020. That has now been broken today, set at about 61.
Something extraordinary is unfolding at the International Strasbourg Tournament, and it has caught the entire WTA landscape off guard while becoming one of the biggest conversations in tennis. Ticket prices for the 2026 Strasbourg Open have exploded to record-breaking levels. Not because the event unveiled a new stadium, secured a blockbuster sponsorship agreement, or suddenly doubled its prize pool, but because of a single player whose presence transformed the atmosphere overnight. One name changed everything: 20-year-old Filipino sensation Alex Eala. The instant she appeared in the tournament draw, a long-respected WTA 500 competition was suddenly elevated into what many are now treating as the most sought-after ticket in European tennis. Her arrival in Strasbourg triggered a market response more commonly associated with a Grand Slam event than a pre-Roland Garros tournament. To understand the scale of this moment, consider the tournament's history. The International Strasbourg event has existed since 1987, building nearly 4 decades of professional women's tennis in one of France's most picturesque cities. Following the 2023 edition, it earned WTA 500 status and strengthened its reputation as one of the most important stops leading into Roland Garros. Across the years, its courts have welcomed Grand Slam champions, world number ones, and players who would go on to become icons of the sport. Yet despite that legacy, the tournament has never experienced demand remotely comparable to what is happening now. The second Alex Eala's name was confirmed in the field, ticket platforms surged with activity, demand accelerated beyond available supply, and prices climbed into territory never before seen in the event's history. Inside the WTA, this development is being watched with serious attention because Strasbourg's ticket boom is no longer viewed as a local story. It is becoming a powerful indicator of shifting global interest in tennis and a sign of who is beginning to influence that movement. Tournament organizers, television partners, and scheduling decision-makers all monitor market behavior closely, and when ticket demand moves at this speed, everyone notices. At this moment, all eyes are fixed on Alex Eala. But the reason extends beyond her performances on court. Eala carries something far larger than individual momentum. She represents the passion, energy, and hopes of an entire nation. In the Philippines, a country of more than 110 million people, her matches have become events of national attention. Supporters wake in the middle of the night to watch live broadcasts, flood social media with reactions every time she steps onto the court, and have followed every chapter of her rise. From her junior years to her development at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, through her earliest WTA appearances, every breakthrough victory, and every difficult defeat. Their support has never faded. Once her participation in Strasbourg became official, Filipino fans did more than plan to watch remotely. They began reserving flights, searching for accommodations, and figuring out exactly where the Strasbourg Tennis Club was located and how to travel there from Paris. Ticket platforms felt that wave of interest immediately and in real time. This is not a minor trend or a niche audience phenomenon. The Filipino sports community stands among the largest, most coordinated, and deeply committed fan bases in the world, and whenever a Filipino athlete competes at the highest level, the nation follows with remarkable intensity. Right now, Alex Eala is that athlete, the figure carrying the ambitions, excitement, and sporting dreams of an entire generation of Filipinos. What is happening in Strasbourg goes far beyond the excitement surrounding a single tennis match. It has become a visible, real-world demonstration of what happens when an athlete carries the support of more than 110 million people. And what makes the story even more remarkable is how Alex Eala arrived at this moment. She was not originally placed directly into the Strasbourg Open main draw. Instead, she entered through qualification, forced to navigate one of the deepest and most competitive qualifying fields the tournament has assembled in recent memory. There were no shortcuts, no special path, only matches to win and opportunities to earn. Eala stepped into that pressure without hesitation, embraced the challenge, and secured her place through performance alone, replacing Hailey Baptiste as a qualifier by proving herself point after point on Strasbourg's clay courts. As soon as confirmation spread that she had advanced, ticket activity surged once again because the audience response shifted from simply watching remotely to wanting to witness the moment in person. For the WTA, this carries implications that reach far beyond one tournament and should serve as an important signal about the sport's commercial future. For years, conversations about expanding women's tennis globally have centered on familiar regions, established stars, and traditional audience segments. But what Eala is generating suggests the emergence of an entirely different growth avenue. Southeast Asia, and especially the Philippines, represents a market with immense scale, energy, and emotional investment, yet until now it has rarely had a player competing at this level in the women's game. Every event Eala enters now becomes more than a tournament appearance. It becomes an opening for women's tennis to connect with millions of potential new supporters eager to follow a story like this. A young athlete from Manila, developed on the clay courts of Mallorca, now competing across France while carrying the hopes of a nation whose flag has never before reached this level of visibility in professional women's tennis. This is no longer just a tennis storyline, but a moment that is reshaping attention around the sport itself. To the Strasbourg Open's immense credit, the tournament recognized the significance of Eala's arrival almost immediately. Tournament director Dennis Nagelin and his team did not treat her appearance as just another name added to the draw or another qualifier passing through the event. Instead, they welcomed her with the level of attention, enthusiasm, and visibility normally reserved for the tournament's highest-profile stars because they understood the scale of what she represented. They understood that every time Eala stepped on a court, millions of viewers, many of whom had never watched a single Strasbourg Open match before, would suddenly be paying attention. Every broadcast frame, every image from the venue, every social media update, and every glimpse of the tournament grounds was reaching audiences the event had spent years trying to attract. Eala brought that reach instantly, simply through her presence. But the spike in ticket prices is only the most obvious sign of a much larger shift taking place underneath the surface. It is the market expressing, in unmistakable terms, that Eala is no longer being viewed as another talented young player fighting through qualification. She is becoming a spectacle in her own right, an athlete capable of changing the commercial energy and cultural relevance of every event she enters. What makes it even more remarkable is that she is only 20 years old and still at the beginning of her professional journey, yet she's already creating the type of anticipation and urgency that tournaments usually experience only when the sport's biggest established names arrive. She is creating the feeling that this is something people cannot afford to miss, that choosing not to be there risks missing a moment people will talk about later. At the same time, her level on court is beginning to match the attention surrounding her. Throughout this clay season, she has steadily evolved from tournament to tournament, building momentum from Linz to Stuttgart to Madrid, and then reaching a career-best third-round appearance in Rome at the Italian Open. She arrives in Strasbourg looking more composed, more confident, and more dangerous on clay than at any previous stage of her development. In Rome, she pushed world number 2 Elena Rybakina through 2 highly competitive sets and has already collected wins over top 50 opposition on the surface, showing that she is no longer simply trying to survive at this level, but proving she belongs in these battles. With her place already secured in the Roland Garros main draw and belief growing quietly in the background, she is not entering Strasbourg just to gain experience or enjoy the occasion. She is arriving with expectations of advancing, creating moments, and continuing to announce herself to the sport. She wants to show that her emergence on clay is not a brief storyline, but the beginning of something much bigger. So when people argue that one athlete cannot transform the financial energy and cultural atmosphere of a tournament overnight, Strasbourg 2026 offers a powerful counterexample. Look at the ticket demand. Look at the streaming attention. Look at the fans traveling across countries to sit inside that iconic Alsatian setting because they refuse to experience her rise through a screen. For some, the reaction may feel sudden, but for anyone who has followed Eala's progression over the last 2 years, this kind of moment has felt less like a surprise and more like an inevitability waiting for the right stage. The world is only now beginning to realize what the Philippines has known all along, and Strasbourg has simply acted as the wake-up call. So the real question is this: what do you think happens next? Is the WTA currently overlooking one of the most significant commercial forces women's tennis has ever seen? Or is this explosive ticket demand in Strasbourg just a short-lived surge that will fade as quickly as it appeared? Or are we about to witness this exact pattern repeat itself every time Eala steps onto a tournament stage from here onward? And for the Filipino supporters watching closely, did anyone actually manage to make the trip to Strasbourg? Share your experience. Tell the story of how far you traveled, what it felt like to walk into that stadium, and what it meant to see her live in action. Most importantly, where do you see her going next at Roland Garros? Will she reach the round of 16, break into the quarterfinals, or go even deeper into the draw? Leave your bold predictions below. Like and subscribe if you want to stay part of this unfolding story. Because everything happening right now is just the beginning of what many are calling the rise of the Eala era.